Hello, good evening everybody. We have a new game today and apparently we are going straight into the grunfeld defense. By far my favorite opening in chess. For both colors actually. Even though I only played with the black pieces, I guess if I could only play the grunfeld, I would choose to play black in every game. So generally, as you can see in this opening, white is surrendering black is surrendering the center of the board, but black has a lot of pressure against the white center, and he's trying to make his life a bit difficult and to create some counterplay against the center. So let's see. I've actually played so many lines during my lifetime. I'm not even sure what to play here. Let's play bishop g4. This is one of the possible lines. Now I'm pinning his knight. Now the idea is that now black is retreating the bishop on d7 only after slightly weakening white's position with this maneuver bishop g4, bishop d7. So one might argue that white's pawn on f3 does not disturb him too much, and this might be true, but in some variations black might use the fact that this diagonal is opened up against his king. Now white chose the move pawn to f4, and I can immediately say that I don't like this move, and I think it's generally a wrong move. It looks nice for white to grab a lot of space in the center, but he's creating himself a permanent weaknesses behind those pawns. So the first move which comes to mind is actually to play here bishop g4, trying to pin the knight against the queen, using actually the fact that by his last move he has weakened the square on g4. And I could also do the same thing after exchanging the pawns in the center, but as a rule I want to keep the pressure on, so I think I will play bishop g4 straight away. I want to keep the pawns on the board because sometimes after white will push his pawn or retake my pawn, I would have the option of taking on c3. Now white played e5, so he's playing against my bishop on g7. Now this bishop on g7 is a very bad piece, but on the other hand white has weakened some of his squares in the center of the board, so I might use it to my advantage. So let's see, the d5 square would be now a nice outpost for my pieces if I could get there. Question is, can I get there? So I need to try to get my knight this way, so it could be either b4 and d5. Probably this is the best way I could do so, but for the moment it's kind of difficult, because for this I will have to capture his pawn on d4, and I'm still not sure if I'm ready to release the tension. Let's see. Can I play here rook to c8? So just kind of saying for white, I want to attack your bishop on c4 over the c file. So this is very possible. As you can see, I'm taking my time here because I'm really not quite sure what to do, and my opponent played on a very fast rhythm. I don't think it's such a smart idea, but we will see. I might run into some time trouble later. Okay, let's play rook c8, let's see what happens. So my idea is rather simple. I want to take on d4, followed by knight takes d4, and at the end of the day, the bishop on c4 is very likely to hang on c4. So white should be quite careful about what he is going to do right now. So he should probably try to defend the bishop somehow, or he could just move the bishop to a safer square such as d3 or b3. So those moves definitely come to mind. I also wonder, yes, if white could actually play h3 on the last move, but he chose to play bishop to d3. So once again, I'm presented with the option of taking the pawn and releasing the pressure. I think by now it's a good time to do so. And only because now, after he will take the pawn, with his pawn probably, I have the option of playing knight to b4 here. This is a move I like. Of course, also some tactics involving knight takes d4 also needs to be considered, but I just don't see how it works. So let's see. Somehow I feel I didn't play the best moves. I feel like black should have got better position than this. I think black is still quite okay here. He has quite an active piece play, which is quite typical for the grunfeld defense. So white having the center, black having some active play, but perhaps I could have got more than this even. Now I have some nice outpost for the knight on d5, attacking the bishop on e3, and I still have this spin over the queen. So I'm quite wondering what should I do here. Probably queen d2 is the way to go here, stepping out of this spin and protecting the bishop on e3. That would be the logical move to my eyes. And then I would have a serious consideration whether to take, oh wait, I'm actually mistaken. If queen d2, I could win a pawn there. I will show it after the game. So we play this bishop to d2, a bit more prudent. Now the pawn on d4 is a very weak pawn, and generally I would be very happy if I could attack it. So even the move queen b6 come to mind here, with the idea that bishop takes d5. I have bishop takes e2, followed by queen takes d4 check. But this is a bit risky, because I might be missing something. And my main problem still remains this bishop on g7. So at the moment we could say that white's strategy is working pretty well here. Now I've spotted another interesting option, which is rook to c4, trying to attack this knight. I'm a bit low on time, so I think I will just play it. I don't know why, but my intuition says that this should be a decent move, because it's quite tricky for white actually to defend this pawn on d4. It's quite a weakened pawn. So if, for example, white tries to move his bishop somewhere, it's not even very clear where. c1 looks ridiculous. So I think white practically is forced to sacrifice the pawn under unclear circumstances. So probably the move rook c4 was quite a good move. I'm actually quite happy that I found it, because without this move I was really starting to wonder if my position was so good as I was thinking. Probably I was still okay, but not more than just okay. Here I'm probably better. I think I've spotted one way for white to save the pawn. He has the move bishop f3, stepping out of this pin, and then the knight could protect the pawn on d4. This is probably the way to go. But even there, black has a very sympathetic position. I might just exchange the bishops. Yeah, he found it, obviously. But this exchange of bishops is, I think, in my favor. Now the knight on d5 is extremely solid. Now I think a logical plan would be to try to take over the c file. So let's play queen c7. And on the next moves, I simply want to triple my heavy pieces over the c file and try to do something there, maybe penetrate to c2 to create some troubles for him. And in the long run, I have one more typical advantage to the grunfeld defense, which is the majority of pawns on the queen side. So he played rook c1, but this does not disturb me too much. I'm just continuing with my plan. And now if he takes my rook on c4, actually I will take with the queen, and the queen would be a very formidable piece on c4, attacking the knight, the pawn, and the other pawn. So I'm really not bothered by this. I feel like from strategic point of view, white is having quite a difficult position here. So if white does not do anything special, my plan would be to play, first of all, the move e6 is a very useful move to bolster the control over the d5 square. Also, my bishop on g7 is still a bit stuck there, so I might have some possibilities to reroute it to some better square over this diagonal. And once again, in the long run, I might want to push these pawns on the queen side and try to find create a passed pawn for myself. Yeah, so he played queen b3. Question is whether he has a threat right now. I don't see a clear threat, but perhaps he just wants to exchange as many pieces as he can. So I think I should take his rook, because I don't want to exchange queens just yet, because his king position, I believe, is slightly more exposed than my king. So in this scenario, I would rather keep the queens on the board. Of course, I'm not excluding the option of later on exchanging the queens, but for now I think it's good for me to keep them on the board. White is having a bit of a think here, but to my eyes it looks like White doesn't have a huge choice here. He could take with the bishop or the knight, and they both have their pros and cons, but I don't think any of them change the evaluation of the position very dramatically. So if I were him, I would probably try and just pick one of them and go along with it, rather than just wasting a lot of time on it. Because yeah, we're getting quite low on time here, and it's clear that in time pressure White would find it hard to play, especially because as I see it, White does not have a very clear plan here, as Black do. My plan, as I described it before, is either to penetrate over the c-file or push the pawns on the queen side, or of course combine the two of them. So I'm really wondering why my opponent is thinking for so long. This is not such a critical position. He took with the knight finally. Now let me just play e6. Once again, I like my knight on d5. It's a very stable piece, which is very difficult to get rid of. The only piece from him which could disturb the peace of this knight is this knight on d3. Perhaps now he wants to come to b4, and I think this is the right time to return my bishop from the dead on g7, and now this bishop is controlling two key squares, c5 and b4, so now his knight cannot get too active here, at least not so easily. Now on the next move, if White does nothing special, I might already be considering moves like queen c4 or c2, trying to penetrate to the heart of his position and trying to attack his main weaknesses, which are the pawn on d4 and his pawn on a2. Definitely his main weaknesses. Let's see. Knight f2 was played, so perhaps White is planning to play knight e4 and try to penetrate with his knight to some squares, even though these two squares are covered right now. So I don't think I should be too worried about this. Now the question is, should I penetrate on c2 or on c4? Probably c2 is better, but I need to calculate. Yes, let me play queen c2. And now a very important detail, that if White is trying to be greedy with queen takes pawn, I will take his bishop on d2, and if he takes my rook, I will have queen e1 checkmate. Yeah, so I think he just missed it. Yeah, so greed is one of man's, let's say, most common sins, so I cannot blame him too much. So yeah, he decided to resign, but it's obviously Black is checkmating on the next move, so he doesn't have too much to do, and of course he's having a piece down. So I think he misplayed its position somewhere around here. I feel like the move f4 from him was really not too great. Let's see the computer's opinion. So yeah, f4, he likes here just to take on d4 and play rook c8. Very logical, but bishop g4 seems also logical. And after e5, rook c8, bishop d3, takes, knight b4. Yeah, probably here I'm already better. Yeah, and this move bishop dt was his critical mistake. Computer says I should take the knight on d5, but after queen takes, my queen has a commanding position here on d5 looking at the whole board, so I'm not too impressed by this. And after rook c4, yeah, this is also the best move by the computer. Black has already a clear advantage here. Yeah, and after this it was already kind of a matter of technique. I think I played it quite decently. And yeah, Black's advantage increased by each move until, yeah, here White just blundered with this move queen takes b7. And this is what I was talking about. Now White resigned because if he takes the rook, I have queen e1 checkmate. So this is really the main point. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this game. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.